The key takeaways from that is be very conscious of the credit card that you book your flight with, even if it's only for $5 in taxes and fees.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com. Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Eric, here with AJ in Caseville, Michigan. And this week we're going to be talking about strategy for picking the right cards as a couple, especially for folks that have combined spending. There are some unique and good opportunities to earn lots of extra points. And this should also be useful if you're just planning a trip with a friend. So we're going to talk a little bit about the ways that the different types of points combine, but especially how you should plan things out if you have the same pool of spending. And show notes for this episode are going to be at abroaders.com/couples. Before we get into the core content and news and updates for this week, we had a little bit of an interesting trip home from Barcelona.
Yes, we did. A little bit of a spoiler alert here, but we actually didn't fly back to Detroit. We ended up driving from New York. So I feel it'd be kind of interesting if we just, kind of explain what our plan was, what happened to us, and how we handled it.
Yeah,
we did some good things, and we had a couple of things we maybe could have done better.
Perfect example of even if you know what you're doing and you've got the best intentions, a couple small details can come back to bite you. So I guess, first of all, to set the big context, I talked a little bit a couple of weeks ago about booking this trip. We ended up taking a flight on American Airlines that was booked through British Airways. It was 20,000 points each, and we went from Barcelona to JFK. And that went extremely smooth.
Swimmingly. It's great.
We got the Aerobus, which is about €5.90.
Yeah.
And so it's a super easy way to get from downtown Barcelona to the airport without paying $35, $40 for a cab. And then got on our flight.
Yeah, before the flight, we hit the lounge.
We did. We had
Travel Pros pulled up Lounge Buddy, found the closest lounge to our gate. Eric, good move on your part, suggesting that we stock up on some stuff because we were flying in economy class. Did not want to be at the mercy of the in-flight crew asking for a water or juice. So stocked up. I got some breakfast, stocked up on juice and water. Starting the days like Travel Pros, using Lounge Buddy, using our tools, using our knowledge.
Feeling a little bit cocky.
Yeah, a little bit cocky. Hop on the flight from Barcelona to JFK, 777. Pretty nice economy product. It was one of the newer AA as far as the way the interior was retrofitted. The seats, the recline is a little bit better, a little bit more leg room in economy than some other flights you may be on domestic. So everything's going great. We get to JFK, and this is where our second itinerary begins because we went on American to New York, and then we had a Southwest award from New York to Detroit.
Yep. And so we kind of, it was tricky to find the connecting flight. So this is sort of a positioning situation where we got our overseas segment and we're able to save quite a bit because British Airways charges distance-based. So it was cheaper to use British Airways on that direct flight. But there were no flights out of JFK. We looked at a couple options. We looked at JetBlue. We looked at just buying tickets and couldn't really find anything. Figured out a way to use Southwest points, but we had to make a transfer to LaGuardia, which is about a 15-20 minute cab.
Yeah, depending on traffic. It wasn't too bad. So that takes us to, we fly to JFK. It was actually the fastest that customs and check bags have ever went. It was as if we wrote it up ourselves.
Yeah, I was talking crap to AJ because I've got the global entry, and I was just waiting for. I've heard nightmare stories about JFK, and you got through really fast. So I used global entry. I got through only maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
You're missing out that we picked up our check bags in stride. We walk up to the belt, and they presented themselves. Pick up a bag without missing a stride. Go get through customs. Get on out, hop in an Uber to LaGuardia, which was not that bad. It was like $30, which was not much more than both of us getting a bus ticket. Way more comfortable. Had the guy stop so we could get some refreshments on the way. We get to LaGuardia. Things are looking pretty good. We were not too disappointed. We had a little bit of a layover, so we went to the Amex Centurion Lounge, thanks to the Amex Platinum. That was great. cocktail, some good brisket, some good
Nice
veggies.
food, really good food.
Really good food.
The only thing I would complain about with the MX Lounge at JFK is it's really small, and it was pretty full. I mean, it wasn't
There's
that
enough
find
seating,
a seat,
but
you couldn't find the nicest seats, let's say.
Yeah. So we're in LaGuardia and hanging out at the Centurion Lounge, which is nice. And then we get the bad news, fast forwarding, that our flight was canceled. And this was around 6 p.m. that we found out our flight was canceled, and our flight was scheduled for about 6:50 with the delay that they told us an hour before.
And one of the things that's not good about the itinerary we built, sort of a built-in risk, is that we arrived in New York around noon, but we didn't have this flight scheduled until 6:20. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't really have any options after that. There were only like 3 or 4 flights that went out from LaGuardia or any New York airport.
Yeah.
So we started looking, basically, then this is a really good tip. If you do run into irregular operations, something goes wrong with your flights, you want to try and get in line, but also get on the phone to see if you can get some help faster. So I stayed in the lounge and used Skype, got on a call and waited for an hour and 20 minutes. Never had anybody pick up the phone with Southwest, and they had major problems all over the place. Chicago was down because of weather, and they had this big issue with their IT the day before. AJ gets in line, and about an hour and a half after we started this process,
was still 45 minutes away from speaking to an agent, and I don't know how productive that would have been. Those agents had been just, getting annihilated.
Worst day of work. Yeah. All right, and in the meantime, we had Janelle, who is awesome at working out all of these sorts of irregular operations, changes, scenarios, looking up stuff fast. She was looking for all these different flights, and there just wasn't anything. And so this is when I started to look at what our compensation might be if we got delayed and ended up having to spend the night in New York City. Now, AJ and I had this big get-together at the lake with a bunch of friends, so we really didn't want to be an extra day late.
For us, it was non-negotiable. We didn't want to wait a day or two. We wanted to do everything possible to get back.
But I was really excited we used a credit card. We definitely use a rewards card for this flight. We're going to have coverage for this. So I look up the Amex Business Gold card, and I see that amongst all the other benefits that they do have, like lost bag coverage and coverage if you're dismembered or killed or all these horrible things, they don't have any coverage if your flight is delayed or if your flight is canceled, which meant that we were at the mercy of Southwest, and they were not able to respond any reasonable period of time.
Yeah, and the best case scenario for us, I checked into Southwest and what they would do for us, and it would have been we would have had to wait in line another 45 minutes, and they would have sorted us out at probably a pretty shitty hotel near the airport, and they maybe would have taken care of ground transportation, and then that leaves us the next day still not having a flight, not knowing what we're going to do.
Yeah, and so let's contrast that with, had we been a little bit smarter and used the Chase Sapphire Preferred card to book those flights, we would have had up to $500 for a hotel room. So basically, if your flight's delayed for more than 12 hours or canceled, and you don't get to your destination for more than 12 hours, they will give you $500 to cover.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that this is, even with an award flight, if it's, say, $5.60, which is taxes and fees, you want to put it on the best card, which...
Yep, because the card you use to pay the taxes and fees is what triggers whether you're going to have those benefits. So I found out we were not going to get anything. And by the way, even if we were going to drive, which we ultimately did, you could still take that $500 credit and check into a really nice hotel. That's maybe not the most ethical thing to do to the credit card company, but if you really want to earn some extra points, maybe you're super close to getting elite status, you could technically go to the Park Hyatt downtown New York and spend $480 on a hotel room, check in, grab some food, some stuff out of the free waters, and then hit the road. But anyways, we didn't have that luxury. Fortunately, we did get to take advantage of one benefit that comes with the Amex Platinum card, and that is that Amex Platinum has upgrade and elite status for 2 rental companies. So National Rental Car and Hertz both give you a middle tier to top tier elite status, and they give you that. What comes with that is an upgrade to a nicer car. Or in our case, we just got to walk in and pick any car off the lot that we were interested in.
Yeah, with National, it was great. Walk in, hop in the car, check out, and so that's where we're left. And we ended up driving from LaGuardia to Flint Bishop International Airport, where we dropped off the car and met a friend that we headed to the lake with. So, I guess the key takeaways from that is be very conscious of the credit card that you book your flight with, even if it's only for $5 in taxes and fees. also be conscious when you piece together itineraries in Southwest's mind, we were just at the beginning of our trip, and you are entitled to different benefits if they pretty much screw you in the middle of an itinerary. And so we were entitled to...
That's a really good point. So when you do those sort of attached two different itineraries, they're not necessarily responsible for the whole trip. And they also, you're in a crappier situation. I mean, we were up all night trying to get our crap out of Barcelona's apartment. And so, certainly really well worth spending a little bit of time to make sure you know which card you want to use. Chase Sapphire is a really good one for that. But all in all, it only costs us about $130 to rent a car, which is awesome to be able to go halfway across the country and drop the car at another airport.
Yeah.
And it only took us 12 hours.
Yeah, not too bad.
Not the worst. All right, so let's get into some news and updates. We got a couple of quick things that I just wanted to mention. Again, we've got links to all of these in the show notes at abroaders.com/couples. First up is Amex is offering a 10,000 point membership reward bonus. This is targeted, so you got to log into your Amex account to see if you have this offer. I checked out both of my Amex accounts, and I didn't have it. But basically, it's for their extended pay option. So it means, and again, you should never put a revolving balance on a card. The interest is really high, and it's going to erode a lot of the benefit of your points. But in this case, it's just to enroll in the option of using their extended pay. So you can run a balance, even if you never do, you still get the 10,000 points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is that's not too shabby. And another thing to note is that you do need to be approved for this, and it will have to do with some payment history stuff and some of your account info. But this does not count as a hard pull against your credit. So,
and that's important.
So it's risk free to if you do get targeted for this, it's risk free to at least give it a try and see if they'll approve you for this, and then you get your 10,000 points. And we've also got some reports. This came from Frequent Miler. Thank you, Frequent Miler. And it looks like it took less than a week for the bonus points to post when he did something similar to this with Amex.
So that's definitely good if you've got a slight shortage of points to get a booking that you're interested. Okay, so moving on. Next up is a $500 bonus with Chase Business Checking. Again, going to put the link in the show notes here. But if you open a new Chase account and deposit $5,000. And
this is a Chase business account.
Yep.
So a Chase performance checking account, to be precise.
Correct. And, $500 within 10 business days. And you need to maintain that balance for 2 months, for 60 days. And you need to keep the account open for at least 6 months. Then you're going to be able to get a $500 bonus. The one big catch for folks that are out traveling around is you do have to go into a Chase branch to apply for this. Mm-hmm. So it's something I'm actually going to do while we're here in Michigan. It should be super easy. Nice to get a $500. I would say make sure you read through the post because there is a monthly fee that's involved with this account. So that's going to, and the fee is waived if you have a bigger deposit. I don't know what the total number is, but you get, if you deposit $500 and keep it there for 60 days, you get the bonus, but just know that the monthly fees will likely eat away at some of that value, but still worthwhile if you have a Chase branch in your area.
Yeah. Next piece is a targeted offer from Citi. And we're seeing different amounts on the bonus that they're offering. So we've got 5,000 Thank You Rewards points for adding an authorized user to the Thank You Preferred card. And there may be other cards this is targeted, and we've heard of people having a 3K offer, 5K offer, more. But how this works is if you add an authorized user to that card and they spend $2,000 by September 30th, you get your bonus. So this is pretty appropriate for our episode today, where it's not a big deal if you've got a spouse to have them be an authorized user and just shift the spending from you to their card, get the bonus points. Not super lucrative, not worth bending over backwards to take advantage. But if you've got somebody that you share spending with, it could be an easy way to snatch 5,000 points.
Two downsides to this. One, if you add an authorized user, it does count against the 524 rule for Chase. So if I have an account and I want to add AJ as an authorized user, that counts as one card that's open. So be aware of that because 5,000 points is not that much in the scenario where the other person might be able to open their own account and get a 50,000 point bonus or something like that. And then the second thing is that it does have a $2,000 spend requirement. Mm-hmm. And the next one up is some extra points and you don't have to do any spending.
Yeah, so we've got 2.5K, 2,500 SPG points for adding an authorized user. Like Erik said, there's no spend requirement. So all you need to do is add an authorized user. You actually tried this and it did not work, but that was because it was a business account.
And I actually don't know that. So if you have a business account, maybe give it a try. What I got from Amex is that I can't add an authorized user online for some reason, and I needed to call Amex. So I haven't had a chance to verify if it's possible with the business card. But it seems like this is targeted for folks with the SPG personal card from the American Express. But if you've got the business one, it doesn't hurt to check. Just takes a couple of seconds to check online. And definitely shoot us an email or a message if you are successful with the business card. It'd be good to know. But there's no minimum spending requirement. In fact, the authorized user doesn't even need to make a purchase. So just adding them to your account is going to trigger the extra 2,500 Starwood preferred guest points. And one thing just to keep in mind for perspective here, Starwood points are super valuable.
Yes.
You can actually get a free night at a tier 1 hotel in the Starwood family of properties for $2,000. So definitely worth taking advantage of. And then that can always top up a balance that you can transfer to an airline.
With a nice 25% transfer bonus.
Exactly. Okay, last but not least in our news and updates, I wanted to let you guys know, and just full disclosure, we do not know if this is going to be around by the time we air on Wednesday. We're recording this late on Monday night, but the City Prestige Card 50K offer has been pulled from the City website, and all the affiliates have been told that the offer's ended. However, there is still a link, and we're going to put it in the show notes. Just a reminder, and I think the public offer now is 40,000 points, but the spend also increased. So the new offer, if you don't get to this in time, is going to be 40,000 points after 4,000 spend in 90 days. But the better offer that's going away, and get it while you can, is 50,000 points after 3,000 spend. Just a quick recap. This is a super lucrative card. It does have a $450 annual fee that's not waived, but basically, any way you slice it, worst case scenario, if you do things right, you're going to get $1,300 out of this card. And the reason for that is, number one, you get a $250 airline credit, which you can use to cover airfare. And you can use that twice during the 1 year cycle of your annual fee. So you pay the annual fee one time. You can use the $250 credit in 2016 and in 2017 before the fee posts again. You also get Admirals Club access. They've announced some changes with this card. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but through July 22nd of 2017, you've got Admirals Club access. You also get Priority Pass Select, which is like the Amex card, except that with the City Prestige card, you actually get to bring guests in for free. Which is a $25 fee with the Amex Priority Pass, so that's an even better benefit. Probably the biggest one is that you get your 4th hotel night free. So anytime you're booking 4 nights, you pay for 3, and you get the 4th night free. So that one's huge if you actually pay for hotel stays quite often. $100 global entry credit. AJ, you're going to be using that on the Platinum card very soon. And then the other thing, now, thank you points are super valuable. They transfer to Singapore and Air France Flying Blue. Those are two of the best partners. But you can also redeem them directly towards airfare. You get 1.33 cents on all airlines and 1.6 cents on American Airlines, which is probably one of the better ones for U.S.-based travelers. And so it is true that is also changing in July of 2017. The American airline airfare is going to go down to 21.25 cents per point, but you've got a full year. And the last thing is, so if you do this, you max out this card, you get $800 worth of American Airlines airfare plus two $250 credits towards airfare. That's $1,300. By the time this annual fee bills again, these guys are going to be changing and downgrading a lot of benefits, and I expect that they're going to have really good retention offers for people to stick around. So this is a really good time to get this card if you're going to do it. And again, show notes, abroaders.com/couples.
And hopefully the link's still live.
Hopefully it's still there. Okay, so the core content, the inspiration for this episode came from a listener question. The question was, what happens when there are two of you that need to travel together? And in particular, if you guys share expenses, what is the best strategy for applying for cards? So this sort of assumes that both of you are eligible to apply for cards in the U.S. and that you have good enough credit to have access to some of these rewards cards. What do you do when you've got two people sharing the expenses? and trying to figure out how to sort of leverage your collective monthly spending to get the most points, not only get the most points, but get points that you can use for travel together.
So a really good spot to start is with you or your partner, figure out where you want to travel over the next couple of years. Eric and I were talking about this earlier. It can be a little bit dangerous if you zero in on just your next flight, because if you've got a tight window or you've got really specific dates, it might not work out to get that flight with points. So, wherever you're going to fly over the next 2 years, map those out and just take a quick peek at how many points that would be. It's really not that difficult just to do a couple Google searches and find some award charts and figure out how many points you're going to need. But the whole reason that you get the cards and you get the points is to book travel. So it all starts at where do you want to go, and then we reverse engineer it.
Okay, so the next consideration is what credit cards each of you already have, and in some cases you want to also know when you open those cards up. So the biggest thing that comes to mind, at least right now, is the Chase 524 rule. So that you can't open more than 5 cards in a 24-month period, or Chase won't let you get approved for any new cards. So if either of you has 4 or fewer cards in the last 24 months, the first application you want to consider is a Chase application.
Yep.
So definitely the Chase Ink card and the Chase Sapphire Preferred are great offers. United cards are really good, and they can combine with the points that you get from Chase. So the key thing with Chase is obviously that you can't apply for 2 personal cards or 2 business cards on the same day.
Right.
So that's a situation where if you're looking at doing that sort of thing, you want to have maybe one person apply for a Chase Sapphire, and the other person, maybe they already have that card, they apply for the United Explorer card. And the reason for that is that way you both are applying for a personal card from Chase, so you're actually getting enough points almost for a round trip just in that small section right there. And then you don't have to worry about those doubling down on having too many applications with the same bank in the same category of card. Okay, so the first thing you want to consider is what credit cards each of you already have and when you open them up. So just to kind of recap the basic rules that more or less apply to all the banks. In general, you can't apply for 2 personal cards. One person can't apply for 2 personal cards or 2 business cards from the same bank. And the really nice advantage of being a couple is that you can each get a personal card from the same bank without breaking that rule. So one of the really important sort of general frameworks is that you want to try and apply for cards that get you either the same type of points. The easiest and best way is to apply for the same card. But if you can't do that, let's say AJ and I are a couple and AJ has the Sapphire card already, but I don't. I can apply for the Sapphire card because it's an awesome card and everybody wants to get that one. But AJ isn't eligible for a bonus because he already got one. So AJ might apply for the United Explorer card because Chase points go to United. They transfer to United. And so those are points that you can use together. We both get a personal card from Chase, and we're getting points that we can use together. Now, the second thing is that you can, with most banks, apply for a business and a personal card on the same day. Citi's the exception. You got to wait 8 days between applications.
Right. There's something I think we should touch on here, though, is there's people out there listening that say, well, I'm not a business owner, so why do I care about business cards?
Fair enough. So the nice thing is that you don't have to have a business to apply for a business card, although it does help to have a business activity that you can sort of explain if they ask you, if your application is initially denied and you have to go through the reconsideration process. But it's totally above board to apply for a business card with your social security number. And if you don't have a business name, you can use your own name as the name of the business. And there's a lot of reasons that people do this. Folks, the United States is an entrepreneurial kind of place. Lots of people are starting businesses all the time. So it makes perfect sense to banks that you may want to
keep that
have a special card. Yeah, exactly, to keep your spending separate. So one of the other strategies is that you can apply for a business card and a personal card, and your partner might be able to do the same thing, and that can double down on the number of points. And generally speaking, there's not a lot of cross-pollination between banks and types of points. Chase cards earn points that transfer to United, and they earn United points. And there's nobody else that has a card that earns United. So if you're trying to combine those, the applying for the same card from a bank or a card from the same bank as your partner is helpful. The other thing that you want to keep in mind, and this is in particular with Chase, is the 524 rule. And so what that means is that you cannot open a new card with Chase if you have more than 4 cards open in the last 24 months. So 5 cards open in the last 24 months, you're not going to be able to open a new account. So Chase is a really good place to start if either of you are underneath that 524 limit. You should make your Chase applications before you do anything else.
And not to mention, if we're talking about the Chase Sapphire card or the Ink card, those points are so universal. It doesn't really matter your travel plans. There's really not a place that, they would be bad points for because of, transferring to United and flying pretty much anywhere on Star Alliance.
Yep. The other thing, and this goes back to what you were talking about a second ago with where you want to travel. Like we said, Sapphire, the ultimate rewards points that the Sapphire earns and the United points are really good for international travel because they have a zone-based chart, and so it's basically a flat price from region to region. It can be really advantageous as far as getting better pricing using fewer points for your trip. However, if in that 18 to 24 month travel plan that you guys talked about, you've got some domestic travel in there as well, and maybe you've already got this Chase Sapphire, or maybe you just don't, that's not one of the options for you. Right now, the Southwest cards, both the business and personal, have 50,000 points. And so that's a really good opportunity. If one person applies for both the business and the personal card, that person is super close to having eligibility for the companion pass.
Yep.
And so I would say, hands down, the number one strategy right now, if domestic travel is a significant part of your travel spending plan, is to go after the companion pass. Now, there are definitely some people out there that would say, hang on, wait a second, doesn't that kind of cut you short because it's already July? And so if you get the companion pass sometime in August or September, you're not going to get as long of a time to have it. And that's definitely true. It's better to get the companion pass and earn that 110,000 points with Southwest at the beginning of the year. And the reason I say it might be worth doing now is that we just don't know if those offers are going to be around.
Yeah, because that's a huge shortcut to get into the, 110,000 points?
Yeah, so 50,000 points for each of those cards. You're already at 100.
If those drop down to 30, you're looking at covering an extra 40 grand of credit card spending in time to get up to the points to get your companion pass for the, however long you'll have it for.
So, yeah, definitely if you're looking at domestic travel, Southwest cards could be a good choice. And in particular, have one person apply for the business and personal card if they're eligible to do so, meaning that they haven't had either of those cards in the past. I guess the last note to make, and this is something you might want to reach out to us to help with, is that there are some cards that you are eligible to get the bonus a second time, as long as you've closed the account and the last time you got the bonus was more than 24 months ago. Now, that's not universal. Citibank says you have to have the card closed for 18 months. So there's sort of some specific rules. But generally, the application page for the card is going to tell you who's eligible for the bonus. So a lot of Amex cards right now are you can never have had this card or you can never have gotten a bonus for this card in your lifetime. But there's definitely a few, and I know because I just applied for the Chase United Explorer card, and I had gotten that bonus about 2.5 years ago. And I closed the card maybe 3 months ago. I could have closed the card 10 days before applying, and you can get that bonus again. So that's another thing to check out. Don't necessarily rule out cards that you got a long time ago. You want to look at the terms and conditions around the offer. It might be possible to use a card that you got a bonus on in the past. You just got to take a look. And if you are a little bit confused about the rules about what bonuses you're eligible for or what cards you can get, I would highly recommend you take advantage of the membership free trial offer. We've got a link in the show notes, and we will guide you through. We'll look at all the cards you have, your points, your travel plans, and pick the cards for you, give you the links so you don't have to figure out, is this the best offer that's out there? So if you want to check it out, we'll get you through that during the free trial period. If you like the experience, you can definitely stick around, but there's no obligation to do that. And we'll make sure you get the right cards, get it started on the right foot.
Yeah, absolutely. Personalized earning plan. One thing that we should talk about is for those people with shared earning, if you are a spouse or your spouse does not have any income, you're a student, you're staying at home, you're transitioning from work, you still can claim your spouse's income as your household income. So let's say Joe and Sarah are together. Sarah makes $100,000 a year. Joe's out of work. Joe can apply for a credit card and say, my household income is $100,000.
Yep.
So that's something to keep in mind. And speaking about household income, that'll probably have a lot to do with how much money you spend and your spending capacity. And that's something we haven't touched on that's really important, is allocating your spending properly. I mean, typically it's a 3-month window for these cards, so you need to figure out how much money do we normally spend on a credit card in a month multiply that by 3, and that serves as your minimum spend budget. That's the amount of money you can allocate to minimum spends, and they're all different. The Chase Sapphire is at $4,000. The Southwest card we mentioned is $2,000. So it's a little bit of a juggling act, but you want to make sure that you max out the amount of points that make sense for your travel, while keeping that minimum spend down unless you're a big spender.
And one thing that is really helpful in this sense, and another big advantage to having a partner, is you can stagger your application. So as we talked about before, there's an advantage. It's a diminishing advantage now to sort of apply for cards on the same day. It still can help, but the credit bureaus are getting faster. Everything's electronic. So it may not be as big of a benefit as it used to be in terms of likelihood of getting approved if you bunch all your applications on one day. But it is really helpful that if AJ and I are working on a plan to funnel our joint spending and maximize the number of points we can earn, I can apply for cards today and use all of the family spending to hit those minimum spends. So we could pick a set of cards that's really good for me, and AJ and I will put all of our expenses on those cards. A lot of these sign-up offers also give you 5,000 extra points
for an authorized
user. And then when we know that we're going to hit the spending requirement, we're super close, or we're just within range of finishing off the spend on the cards that I applied for 2 months ago, then AJ can go and do his round of applications, and then we'll funnel all of our spending onto his cards. So that's a really nice thing to keep in mind. If you have a huge sort of monthly spend, if you're spending $5,000, $6,000 a month as a family or as a household, it gets a little bit easier. You're sort of more limited by you can only apply for so many cards at once. But if you're looking at, like, we spend, $1,500 and some expenses can't be put on credit cards, so we don't have very much spend available, that's when it really can make sense to stagger that spending and have one person go for cards on one date and then work on that spend, have the other person go after it a few months later.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
One important exception to the idea of staggering spend is if there's a bonus that's out of the ordinary, much better than normal. If you're both eligible for that card, it can make a lot of sense for you guys both to apply for that same card at the same time. Because let's say, just for example, the Delta bonus that was available in June, usually that Delta Gold card is worth 30,000 points. It was up at 50,000 points, and we had a lot of people apply for those cards, especially folks that came in as couples that were working on a couples earnings strategy. It made a ton of sense because, number one, it makes the redemption stuff way easier. You get the same type of points. If the seats are available, there's no hassle in trying to book the ticket.
And, man, if you're playing the long game, the way that you win is you get each card at a higher bonus than normal. That's like the best case scenario, but any chance you have to do that, in the long run, you're going to win an award travel if you're getting bonuses at a decent level or at those, special promotional offers.
Yep. And if you're like me and you've started to run out of cards, you're going to be glad that you did that because, at some point, as you get further down the line in the effort to acquire points, you're going to start to see fewer and fewer cards that you're eligible for. I get super excited when a new card product comes out because I know for sure I'm going to be eligible for whatever that bonus is. So that's a really good point. Definitely go for those higher bonuses. Try and time things as well as you can. The last thing, and I thought this was a really powerful insight. Janelle came up with this and mentioned this to me before we recorded here. So if you've got one person that travels more than the other, so let's say you're a couple and the wife does a lot of travel for business. She's got a job that her employer is sending her out on trips. She's going to be earning a lot of miles through flying.
Sure.
And so the strategy, if that's the case, is that the person who already travels a lot should try and get airline cards that match the flights that they tend to take. So I know this is the case with a lot of businesses where they give most of their flights to one airline. So a company will just generally book with Delta or generally book with American.
Right.
So if that's the case, that person should really go for the airline card because the points go into the account of the person who holds the card.
Topping up your account.
So you're going to be topping up the points that you've already earned through flying. And the key sort of second component here is that the other person, the partner that doesn't travel so much, should go for one of the transferable currencies that transfer to that airline.
Yeah.
So an example, AJ flies a ton on Delta for business. I stay at home and work close to home. And so I'm going to apply for the Amex card that gets me transferable membership rewards because I can transfer those to a Delta account. AJ is going to get a Delta card because he's going to be able to...
Already got some Delta points topping up the account, and then you can toss your American points in there. And I'd say as a rule of thumb, it's pretty safe if you're doing regular travel on United, American, or Delta that you can follow the advice we just said. If you're doing more regional stuff and you're in an obscure airline and they've got kind of a funky card that you've never heard of, then maybe you want to reconsider. But with a major airline, say it's Air France say it's Delta, United, or American, then absolutely go all in on that program, and then the spouse is something that transfer to it.
All right, man. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We actually had plans to talk a bit about redemption stuff as well, but I think we're going to have to leave that for an upcoming episode. We'll spend some time focusing a little bit more on some of the finer points of how to approach researching your travel and booking your trip as a couple. But before we get out of here, let's wrap this up because this has been a lot of information. Let's kind of break it down and give a quick recap of what we've gone over.
Yeah, so a quick recap of, kind of our strategy for couples is, first figure out where you want to go, and it doesn't have to just be your next trip, but over the next 2 years, where are all the places that you want to go? If you play your cards right, you'll be able to get a trip or two. Maybe it's not your next trip, but it'll be the trip after. So we figured out where we want to go. We reverse engineer that. We take a peek at how many points we'll need, and then we got to go ahead and we got to identify the credit cards and the bonuses that we're eligible for. So Eric referred to the Chase 524 rule. So it's depending on how many cards you've gotten in the past couple of years, you may or may not be eligible for them. So you want to try to, like we said, get an offer that seems like a good offer, or if there's a really lucrative offer, there's a big promotion and you see a lot of buzz about how big a bonus is and people in our community are saying it's a good deal, it's probably something worth both applying for. And then is, depending on your spending capacity, if your monthly spend is a little bit limited, stagger applications. For example, have spouse one apply for cards in their name, then spouse 1 and 2 put all of their joint spending on spouse 1's card, hit the minimum spend, then once you get your points, have the other spouse do that.
Yep. Makes really good sense. Again, all the notes and links that we've gone over today are going to be at abroaders.com/couples. Hope you guys find those useful. And thank you so much. I don't have the person's name that sent in this question, but I thought it was a really good one, and we definitely appreciate that. So please, if you have other questions, things that you're not sure about how to take care of, help us create an awesome future podcast episode and send those in. If you go to the website and you're checking out the show notes, right at the bottom right-hand corner, there is a little box that will pop up, and you can send us a message. Every once in a while, we're actually online. Actually, we're online pretty much all the time.
All the time.
So we might even catch you for a live little chat. But if not, we will definitely read your question and try and get back to you personally or make it the topic of an upcoming show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Good stuff. Well, I'm excited to, in the near future, talk about helping these people redeem points because it's a jungle out there.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you so much for being with us. If you found all of that way too confusing and not worth spending a bunch of time figuring out, please check out our offer for a free trial of the membership. We will walk you through it, pick all the cards, and help you get a personalized plan that's going to get you the right points for your upcoming trip. And with that, let's leave these guys with the jam.
Yeah, man, this is a throwback. This is from 1994. The band is Green Day. The album's Dookie, and this album, whether you're into this type of music or not, it's uncanny how many good and big tracks I had. Almost every single track on this was like a big single. So the track is Basket Case. This brings me back to my childhood. I actually bought this cassette tape at the local Felposh when I was, I would have been like 8 or 9 years old.
That's the only thing I was going to say. The only problem with the original of this was that you actually had to press the rewind button to be able to get between tracks. See you guys next week, wherever you are. Travel safe.
It all keeps adding up. I think I'm cracking up. Am I just paranoid? Am I just up?
Hey, brothers, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Erik or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.
Instead, my life's a bore. So quit my wedding, 'cause it's